Good morning, everyone. How are you guys? Thank you so much for having me. My name's Jessica O. Matthews, and I'm the founder and CEO of Uncharted Play. So to get started, I thought it would be fun to play a quick video highlighting some of the work that we've done overseas.
The collaboration and increase the trade relationship between the two countries and had impacted on the nation. You can't get
My name is James Aja Echie. I am the proprietor of Aja Villa Community Academy. We're in a remote area. Infrastructures like road were not constructed. We find it difficult to have access to education. I decided to put my interests, my resources, my wisdom to educate the masses. Without education, we are nothing.
W-I-N, win.
W-I-N, win.
H-A-T, heart.
H-A-T, heart.
The most striking thing that we need in this environment is light. When there is no light, how do you read? We have no option than to use generators. The end product of generator is carbon and its fume in nature is dangerous. Light is life. Where there is no light, no life. Football has been a phenomenon. Somebody has devised a means of using football to produce electricity. The process is this. Take football into the field, kick it, play with it. It has made a movement here and there. And this is kinetic energy. This is the most modern type of production of electricity. It is not dangerous. It is portable. It is not dirty. As you come and plug your light to it, plug your phone to it, plug and even heater to it, it will light.
It was meant to be the spark. It was meant to be that thing that jolted people into realizing what was possible. The most interesting ideas that are going to come from the places that people would never expect. Just a little bit of power can make such a huge difference.
Well, they hope every child in this place have these materials. You only come, kick the ball, charge your material, go and read. Go and use it for anything that you want to use for. Light is life.
Thank you guys so much. So I was 19 years old when I invented the socket ball. And I think it's really important. I'm always super excited to talk to people who are in high school because I honestly feel like once you hit the 4th grade, you've learned like enough to be an adult. Like, let's face it, we don't really use that much more. And everything else we do now is just about how we want to create our world. And you guys are every single one of you are equipped to create your own world right now, today. The funny thing, though, is that I think that often we're not told that we can do that. We're not usually told that we're the ones that are likely to change the world. And very much for me, I often felt like I've lived this life of unlikelies. So our company, the mission is really to power a world in motion with motion. And our tagline is this idea of playing out of bounds. But really, it's just about out of bounds, living out of bounds, thinking out of bounds, being out of bounds, giving out of bounds, really pushing yourself out of the confines of what you think life is supposed to be, out of the confines of what you think it means to be in high school, to be living in Chicago, just anything. Think outside of the box and really ask yourself, why not? For me, that story all began for me in a place called Poughkeepsie. Have any of you guys ever heard of the show Jersey Shore? So I'm from the same place that Snooki's from. So just to talk a little bit about the Life of Unlikelies, it's not necessarily the most inspiring place. I'm a dual citizen of Nigeria and the United States. Anyone here have a Nigerian background? Always, every room. There's always some of us. And so my parents were both born in Nigeria. They came here to the United States in the 80s, met in Brooklyn, as Brooklyn often will allow people to meet. And they pushed me definitely to believe in what I can do, but I was still growing in Poughkeepsie, and I didn't have a lot of opportunities to see the world beyond what I knew. What was exciting, though, is that I was able to really start to understand kind of what it meant to grow up with the American dream, but also a lot of the issues and things that they faced growing up in Nigeria. And also when I would visit my family in Nigeria, my cousins, my uncles, and other family members. And so kind of moving on from there, I was lucky enough, for some odd reason, I studied psychology and economics, by the way. I didn't study engineering. I grew up in this town, Poughkeepsie, where we didn't have a great school system, by the way. I didn't go to a fancy Phillips Exeter or anything that had an amazing curriculum, but I somehow was able to get myself to Harvard for undergrad. Out of my college, out of my high school, I think I was the fourth person to go ever. The first person was my sister, and then who's right back there, actually. And then two other people, and then me, and then that was the last, just to tell you a little bit about our high school. So I went there, and then again, studying psychology and economics, was given the unlikely opportunity to take a course called Idea Translation, Affecting Change Through Art and Science. Mostly I heard they just gave you some money to do cool stuff, and I was like, that sounds pretty cool. And so I went into this course, and they asked us to come up with a problem and then come up with a unique solution that combined art and science. And so I'm sitting here thinking, well, I'm not really an artist, and I don't think I'm really a scientist. I mean, save for my love of Bill Nye the Science Guy, and I don't think, what can I really do? But then I just started to kind of go back and think about my experiences and what I knew. Think about all the times that I've spent, going to Nigeria every single summer, seeing the actual need for power, seeing the actual problem firsthand, hearing about it from my family and friends. In fact, just in case you guys don't know, there are nearly 2 billion people on this planet living without reliable access to electricity. And what they end up using, and it's something we ended up having to use, it literally, regardless of your socioeconomic level, you have to either use a diesel generator or a kerosene lamp. And living with a kerosene lamp is as bad as smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day. It's horrible for the environment, it's horrible for the individuals, and this is present day. This is how people are living in these communities in Nigeria, in Zimbabwe, in Rwanda, in Latin America, in different areas on the continent of Africa as well. And so I saw all of this and was fortunate enough to have these experiences. So I said, well, you know what? I may not be a classic scientist. I may not be someone who came from a great fancy school, but I do have this bank of observations, this bank of experiences that I think are meaningful and that I think could actually lead to something that would be worthwhile to pursue. And so I started to then think a little bit more about what else I noticed when I would visit my family and actually go there for different vacations and whatnot. And on top of the energy issue, I also found that there was incredible love for soccer. Soccer is the most popular sport around the world. And one thing that I knew just from general reading, studying, and also my studies in psychology is that play is universal. Play makes people happy, it brings people together, everyone plays. And so I thought, what if I could combine the two? What if I could take something that people want to do and that they already do and give them the win-win, amplifying that existing behavior and just giving them a little bit more out of that play, giving them the power that they need, at the very least to address the short-term issues of not having access to reliable, clean energy. And so I started to prototype. honestly, if you're asking me where I got this information from, how did I think about things like the Faraday principle, how did I basically teach myself mechanical and electrical engineering? Google and Wikipedia, you know? And lots of Britney Spears. I remember Britney Spears was just playing in the background a lot when I was like making things. I don't know why. Not as much as part of my prototyping life right now. Right now it's all about Beyonce. Like, you know, when Formation's on, I'm just inventing. It's crazy. But I was able to actually push myself and realize that, you know, ultimately science, the meaning, the actual definition of science is the study of life, which means if you're living, you're halfway there. You just have to have the confidence to start to think about what makes sense. And so I started to sketch out ideas just from basic things I remembered from physics class. Not even honors physics, just basic physics, right? Like, you know, thinking about how does energy move? Like thinking about, you know, how do shake to charge flashlights work? How can I reverse engineer those? You know, literally putting things together. Soldering, by the way, is not much harder than giving yourself a solid like pin curl or giving yourself a manicure. Like a lot of the things that you have to do in a science class require the experiences that I think many of us girls have just to make ourselves look okay. You know, so you shouldn't be intimidated by the process. And so ultimately, after taking a few years to develop this and working with my school, I was able to develop the socket. The socket is an energy-generating soccer ball that harnesses the motion, the rolling motion from play, to be able to actually store that kinetic power, which is the energy of motion, inside of the ball to provide reliable off-grid power. And so, again, how could someone who doesn't play soccer, isn't an engineer, develop this? And really, it was just a question of, well, why not? You know, the cool thing of starting young and just pushing is that you really have nothing to lose. You know, at the very least, you have an amazing failure to talk about in your college essay, you know? And at the best, you could create something that the world has never seen. And so that's how I just kept on pushing. I kept on thinking, wow, you know, this is fun. What do I have to lose? Let me keep going. And so I found an Uncharted play almost 5 years ago, right when I was just out of college. I went to go and work for a startup for 9 months and then realized that, you know what? When you're doing something innovative, there's no real way to be taught how to do it. You just have to have the courage to struggle, fall down, and get back up. So I might as well start doing that when I'm 22 and 23 versus when I'm 32 and 33. And so that's where I went. And I started to push and create a company and push out our products around the world. In fact, we've distributed to over 10 different countries around the world, including Nigeria, Mexico, Brazil, even Canada, South Africa. We've expanded now to Swaziland. In fact, we're expanding our products with a STEM curriculum called Think Out of Bounds across the country of Swaziland, working with the White House to implement that. Here's some photos of some of the work that we've done overseas as well. And so I think also what's really exciting, we've had a few presidents, depending on how the election goes, I have no idea if this might just be the last president we have play with this ball, but we'll see. I don't want anyone's weird orange makeup and hair to get messed up. What can I say? So, been able to travel around the world, and what's funny then is that to understand that innovation never stops. There's always a way to grow and learn. From traveling around the world, I started to notice that while soccer is the most popular sport, there are still certain environmental issues that kept it from being used by everyone we wanted. Specifically, we found that girls sometimes weren't allowed to play with the boys, and the boys would just grab the ball and go. Or, for example, in some of the refugee camps we worked in Jordan and Syria, girls at the age of 12 aren't allowed to play outside because they're considered to be too tempting to the boys. I personally think that means you should keep the boys inside, but it's fine. Like, you know, I'll leave it at that. And so we thought, what could we develop? What could we develop that would give the girls, and honestly everyone, even more power and allow them to play and get the power that they need as well? And so from that, We started to shrink the size of the core technology. What's exciting here is that it was the environmental need, it was the impact that started to drive the technology. And we started to say, you know what, we're not scientists, but we have to be now. How do we shrink this technology and continue to shrink it to the point where we can even put it in a jump rope? And so this, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna mess up my battery pack on my microphone, but whatever. So then we created the jump rope. And the cool thing about the jump rope is that with just, sorry, I gotta fix my hair, you know, gotta fix it. With just a couple minutes of jumping, you can get over 15 minutes of light as well. And so again, this is still a girl who isn't an engineer by training, isn't some scientist that's always been working with this. And so we started to push the pulse. Now, of course, the question now becomes, where did we go from here? Where do we go from here? I went to business school and started to think about how do you build sustainable systems? How do you build companies that can really have massive impact? And we realized that this core technology can actually go beyond play. And so it's funny, we realized actually that, by thinking about how we could make our core technology called MORE, which stands for motion-based off-grid renewable energy. You can play the next video. How we can make that small enough that now that we've introduced this concept of energy from motion, amplifying our existing behavior, that maybe we could go beyond just play. We can think about how we create an entire world where people get the power that they need just from living their lives, just from moving, just from being active, just from being alive, really. What does that mean? And again, this all started from a class project when I was 19 years old. I'm 28 now, so 9 years. 9 years of focus-ish, focus. And so then we started to think, why not? What could we push? What can we do? And this is what we're expanding into now. And so now I'm really excited to say that at the age of 28, I am a young African-American woman without a tech degree that's running a profitable hardware tech company that's bringing power and energy to the entire world, that's about to thank you. That's working with major Fortune 100 companies to integrate our technology into everything that moves, to give people power, to really democratize power and change the way we not only can generate power, but the way we consume it. And it all came from me looking at who I am, where I come from, and instead of seeing that as an obstacle, seeing it as a competitive advantage, an opportunity to see the world in a way that a lot of people don't see it, and making something out of it. And so here's my challenge. Get to the challenge. So here's my challenge. I looked at my community and where my family was from to think about how I could rethink that environment, rethink what they experience. Now I can tell you right now in New York, if you guys are ever there, I'm moving my company from downtown to Harlem because I want to build the first billion-dollar tech company in Harlem. And I want to reimagine what Harlem looks like. And I want all of you to do the same. I challenge you to reimagine urban spaces so that kids living in underprivileged neighborhoods have equal opportunities to be creative, to play, and to become social inventors for their communities. I want you to think about this not only from a technological perspective, how can we get more of our environment in that way, but also from a psychological perspective. How can we build an ecosystem where we're all creating the world that we want? Thank you.
Have you guys changed your mind about working out and how movement is so great? Did y'all change your mind? Yes. Your story is so inspiring. I'm back there getting goosebumps.
Thank you.
So I don't want to play any favoritism, but I'm fired up about this girl. I don't know if you are. So let's go ahead with questions.
Hi, my name is Aaliyah. I'm from Northside College Prep. So my question is, on top of Google and Wikipedia, how did you acquire the resources and the aid and the outside sources to produce the socket?
Sure. Hustle, 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 right? You gotta be a hustler. Like, literally, like the song, like, I'm a hustler, I'm a hustler. Like, just take notes and then go out there and do what you have to do. First step is know how to sell your idea. Know how to sell the vision of what you wanna do and talk to the right people who can give you, who will believe in you. So first was school. You know, I went to my professor and said, like, you know, is this a project that I can do as part of our class, so that, and there's always going to be usually a little bit of funding in school to do that. Not a lot, but a little bit of guidance and funding and resources from the school. Make sure that you have a good understanding of who owns what you're building. You know, we made sure that it was clear that it was our group that owned it and not the university, but then you can start there. After that, you have to start looking at family and friends. Even if your family and friends aren't that wealthy, together, if they really believe in you, they're going to put something into you. And you'd be surprised how much innovation can come from $100. All the early prototypes with the socket were made from materials from Drain Reed and Rite Aid. I wouldn't have it any other way. Because I found whether you have $100,000 or $1,000, R&D, which is research and development, R&D is R&D, you know? And in fact, innovation really lives between a rock and a hard place. So you should see the limitations you have in funding as an opportunity to invent something that will probably be cost effective, which is good because things that aren't cost effective are useless. You know, no one wants to have a $3 billion solution to energy. It's not realistic. And then finally, you have to start to think about how you tell your story to the broader audience, right? To people who aren't just your professors or teachers, your family or your friends. Kickstarter can be a great way to think about that, as well as there's honestly so many platforms now, CrowdTilt, Indiegogo, and so now that as long as you're armed with an iPhone or any type of phone with a camera, you can tell your story and get people to believe in what's possible.
Thank you.
No problem.
In the middle here.
Hello, my name is Darion Thompson. I come from John Marshall High School, and my question is, how will this program or how will this new technological innovation be more cheaper and efficient to other programs a part of the world?
Oh, great question. So in terms of affordability, the big thing that we've been looking at is how do we remove ourselves from like using all of the kerosene and carbon fuels that are volatile in terms of prices in the market, and also just are always the easiest thing to kind of pull out of the ground, right? So this doesn't use kerosene, which is super exciting because I'll give you an example. An average family in Rwanda will spend, over the course of a year, $250 on little bits of kerosene oil just to light their one kerosene lamp. Right? So having something that's sustainable, that instead of having to buy that, they can just keep playing and getting that power, the same equal amount of light for a fraction of the cost, ends up automatically being affordable. But the cool thing about our core technology is that we've also developed really exciting ways to manufacture it. So I'm really into not just coming up with ideas, but thinking about how things are made. This is a side note thing that no one will ever talk about because it's not sexy, but it's like the core thing to like the difference between ideas and reality. Supply chain. Supply chain, supply chain, supply chain. If there's anything you're like, oh, what should I study? Supply chain. Like, that is the key thing, because ultimately, what it comes down to is not just the idea, but it's like, how do you get something from A to Z? How do you make things and distribute them, and then make sure that you can service those products later? And so, if you guys are interested in like operational management, I know I'm just kind of going into things that aren't that interesting, but trust me, it's like, it's the most critical thing, and through actually studying that, I was able to develop a few systems to integrate micro-manufacturing, like 3D printers, into the development of our generators, which will ultimately cut the cost by 50%. So even our micro-generators are significantly cheaper, and that all just came from Google. I mean, it's all on Google, but also really understanding how important that is.
Thank you.
Supply chain, supply chain, supply chain. I just have to keep saying it. No, I don't know. Any teachers in here that can like support that, please? Supply chain. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Samuel Mesa from Lindblom Math and Science Academy, and my question is, how long do the socket and the jump rope last? Because I know with anything that uses electricity, it will eventually run out.
Sure. So the cool thing, are you talking about how long does the battery, like the power last?
I'm talking about the actual product, like the socket will
Perfect.
last
Yeah.
X years.
Yeah. So the cool thing about our product is that because we're actually just generating the power, we're not sourcing it, and we're actually switching from, well, I'll say this, anything that we use that has a lithium-ion battery, it pretty much has like all the issues that lithium-ion batteries will have, which is just a storage device. Our products right now are meant to last in the field anywhere from 3 to 5 years before they then need to be fixed up or refurbished like a car, like a way you want to maintain a car over years and years and years. But the idea is also to make it so that people in the communities can take them apart and develop things with them that are better than even soccer balls and jump ropes. For example, one of the kids in the that you saw in the pictures there, the one that was holding the white ball, and playing in the video, he actually took apart his socket to build something even bigger and broader. And so we like to see how that can happen and develop. We're actually in some of our future products now. You guys saw the skateboard, you guys saw the stroller, which is amazing, by the way, for anyone who's for future moms and current moms, it's awesome. Like we're actually gonna be using something called a supercapacitor. Supercapacitors can be charged and recharged millions of times, whereas lithium-ion batteries, which are currently in our cell phones, can only be charged like hundreds to thousands of times. So once you make that switch, we have a product that, as long as it's well taken care of, can last for a lifetime.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
No problem.
So we're gonna go here and then venture off over there.
All right.
All right. Hi, I'm Zainab
Hi.
Akani from Rickover Naval Academy. My question is, how would you make this a little cost-worthy, well, like affordable to the people in like Nigeria or like different countries that struggle with money, like financially?
Yeah, so one of the things that we're doing, so we started out doing the manufacturing here in the United States because when you're building something, it's really important to be as close to the process as possible. And so we actually do all of our manufacturing right now in New York and on the West Coast in Washington State. But as we expand and scale, we're actually going to be bringing the manufacturing to these communities so that we're empowering these people with jobs and also giving them ownership in the actual process in making these products. And so that's actually what I was talking about before. The question you're asking is all supply chain. And again, I'm not trying to be like, the Supply Chain Association is not paying me. I'm just saying that like, it's like the one area that no one seems to want to study and then no one knows how things are made and then we all just wonder why. It's a personal thing for me. But that's actually what we're addressing, right? So by figuring out how we can bring our supply chain to the places like in Nigeria and in Mexico, and developing machines that allow us to use lower cost materials to make this product, we're actually going to be 50% cheaper than any generator that's on the market. We can integrate our products, integrate our technology into everything that moves for a very marginal cost, like $1 to $2 additional. And we're giving people jobs in places where they don't usually have work. And so that's actually what we're gonna be working on over the next 2 years.
Thank you. Also, are you Yoruba or Igbo?
I'm from Edo State. I'm Ishin, which is closer to Yoruba. Okay.
All right, let's go all the way over here. We have time for one more question, and I'll just let our mic runner just choose.
So, hi, I'm Dylan from Wilmington High School, and so over the summer I took a class about NGOs and IGOs and basically how they're implementing these programs to like basically save the world. And so one of the biggest things that was discussed was like creating something that everyone and anyone can use and that won't and that people in communities will be able to like latch onto. And so I guess my question is how were you able to get people in like these small communities to actually use the product and to basically get the people to use the products? And
great question. We found that the best way to get buy-in in the communities is through the moms. Moms make life and they maintain life everywhere around the world. And let's face it, if your dad says it, well, I mean, it is what it is. If your dad says it, it's like, nah, when dad's not here, we'll see. When mom says, use the ball, the kids are using the ball. And so actually what we found out, that's the first thing is we actually had to ask the moms, like, what do you think about this product? Like, and they're the ones who were first like, well, this needs to be beautiful if it's gonna be in my house. It doesn't matter if my house is a one room, whatever, like, this needs to be beautiful. And they would say, okay, well, tell me about how it's cleaned and tell me about how the power is going to be used. And so we actually got great feedback from the mothers and the community leaders. And once they had buy-in, then the whole community had buy-in.
All right, let's give our presenter a round of applause. Are you guys so excited?
Oh, just one last thing. I really, really believe that every single one of you, at this age where you are right now, can create something amazing. My company takes high school interns, and we give them real intern work. We put them next to college, sometimes college graduates and graduate students, and they do amazing things. If any single one of you are interested in potentially working at a hardware tech company while you're still in high school, in New York, please send us an email. You can go to careers, careers, at u-play.co. That's u-play.co. And just send us some information. And let's create amazing things together. Thank you.
Okay, so get it right. Okay.